All right, US President Joe Biden has vowed to stay in the presidential race despite his shaky performance in the first debate.
During a call with campaign staff, Biden reassured top Democrats on Capitol Hill that he is fit for re-election. Now, according to sources, he told worried members of his campaign team that he is not going anywhere. The president added that he remains the Democratic Party leader and is not being pushed out of the 2024 race. This after a New York Times report said that the president is weighing on his decision to continue.
Is President Biden considering stepping down?
Absolutely not. And you heard, I believe, directly from the campaign as well.
Is the president telling people he's evaluating the race?
False. That is absolutely false. I saw that reporting. We were not given enough time to get back to that reporting, just a couple of minutes, and we asked the president. The president responded directly when asked about this question because we said that we would, and the president said it is absolutely false. That's coming directly from him.
And Korean President Biden has always promised to tell the American people the truth. So can you be straight with us and the American people? Is the president clear-eyed about what it takes to stay in the race and what it would take for him to drop out?
The president is clear-eyed and he is staying in the race. I don't have anything else beyond that. He's staying in the race.
In the Democrats' camp, this is the first step away from uncertainty after Biden's debate debacle. Soon after the statement by the White House, national polls showed Biden's chances against Trump had deteriorated since the debate.
A Wall Street Journal survey found Trump beating Biden by a margin of 48% to 42%. A New York Times Siena poll found Trump's lead over Biden had widened by 3 points and is now 49% to 43%. And in a CBS News poll, Trump now has a 3-point edge over Biden across the battleground states collectively and a 2-point edge nationally. All of them agree on one point. The debate has shifted the race in Donald Trump's direction.
So even if he is still knee-deep in the electoral battle pit, Biden's next few appearances heading into the holiday weekend must go well. The president has an interview scheduled for Friday with ABC News that concerned Democrats will have an eye on.
According to reports, House Democrat Jim Clyburn has said that the party should hold a mini primary if Biden steps aside. He is now the first senior party member to talk publicly about how replacing Biden as a candidate could in fact work.
Clyburn has also said that he would back Vice President Kamala Harris as the presidential candidate if Biden were to depart. A handful of governors are potential rivals to Biden as well. But if pressure for him to step aside increases, Harris is the likely successor. For more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Listen to this.
As Americans celebrate the 4th of July holiday weekend, the White House continues to scramble to contain the fallout from President Joe Biden's debate performance, which has sparked concern not only among Democratic governors, but donors as well. In response, President Biden planned a meeting with Democratic governors in Washington and a trip to Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. However, some governors are seeking more direct conversations with Biden himself, expressing frustration with the lack of contact with the president and worrying about the impact on the party's chances moving forward. Meanwhile, the upcoming NATO summit in Washington next week is another test for President Biden himself, as his campaign hopes to shift the focus to America's international concerns. Now, the event will compete for attention with the U.S. presidential race as Biden's campaign faces scrutiny and Donald Trump's preparations for the Republican National Convention. The president is also expected to do a sit-down one-on-one interview with ABC News on Friday, the first after his debate. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
All right, for more on this, we now have with us Spencer Krisley joining us live from Monterey in California. He is a former communications advisor on the Obama campaigns and an author. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on World DNA.
Pleasure to be here.
Sir, of course, you've heard what President Joe Biden has had to say about him being in the race for the White House. What impact do you feel this will have on the Democratic camp? Of course, we also cited the polls earlier. A poll recently suggested that 1 in 3 Democrats think that US President Joe Biden should end his re-election bid. What's your assessment of this?
I think it's crucially important that Joe Biden and the Biden campaign are completely authentic with Democrats across the country, as well as the independents who are likely to want to vote for him or another alternative to Donald Trump. Especially at a time like this, historically, voters have been becoming more and more fed up with inauthentic politicians. And at a moment of crisis like this, when Biden did deliver a debate performance that really was terrible, and voters could see that for their own eyes, any suggestion of trying to spin this and try to convince voters they didn't see what they actually saw, I think will backfire very badly for all those reasons. On the other hand, if Biden and the Biden campaign can show that he is in fact as competent as his record indicates he is, because he's been a historically successful president, both domestically and internationally, then I think he can bounce back from this. But I think authenticity will be the key here.
Mr. Krisley, now, there's no prominent elected Democrat which seems to outperform or do better in any kind of a hypothetical matchup against Trump. Do you think that Biden's re-election bid stems from the fact that there is no other option in the Democratic camp?
Well, as President Biden himself has said, he believed in 2020 and he believes again in 2024 that he is the candidate most likely to be able to defeat Donald Trump. And he proved that in 2020, of course. Now, that said, we shouldn't read too much into polls, because it's a very different situation to be polling people who are not in the running for president with somebody who is the incumbent president. I certainly hope that the truth is that President Biden is capable of going forward. And if he is, then he should absolutely commit to it, and his supporters should absolutely unite behind him. But if the truth is that for some reason he is not capable of going forward, I believe there will be other alternatives. In all of these things, it can sound naive, but in fact, it's very often strategically the smartest thing to do is to focus on just what's true and proceed towards the right choice from the truth. Because if the truth is not on your side, you're constantly fighting against reality, whereas if it is on your side, you have the truth at your back at all times. There are eminently qualified alternatives should one be necessary, and the list begins with Vice President Harris.
All right, Mr. Krisley, thank you so much for joining us and sharing all your insights, having this discussion with us. Of course, after the first presidential debate, things seem to be going more in Trump's favor. Of course, there is still time before November. Let's see what comes out. We will be in touch for more on this. That was Spencer Krisley joining us from Montreal, California.